Hey everyone, and welcome back to another explainer designed specifically to help you absolutely crush the CMA Part 1 exam. I know how incredibly hard you're all working to prepare for your certification, and my goal today is to take a complex, highly tested topic and make it crystal clear for you. Now, in our previous sessions, we walked through the mechanics of actual costing and normal costing. But today, we're leveling up. We're setting the stage for what is truly the gold standard of costing methods, standard costing. And trust me, if you can master standard costing, you are going to master the very heart of the CMA Part 1 exam. Let's get into it. I want you to think about this quote for a second. Standard costing turns a management accountant into a detective. It's kind of perfect, right? Up until now, our costing methods have been completely focused on history. We were basically just recording what a product did cost to make. But as a CMA, your real value to a company isn't just in logging the past, it's in controlling the future. Standard costing flips the script completely. We're moving away from asking what something cost, and instead we're investigating what it should have cost. We're out there looking for clues, sniffing out inefficiencies, and solving the mystery of missing profits. Okay, to make sure you have a rock-solid grasp of this concept, here's our masterclass roadmap for today. 1. The ultimate costing benchmark. 2. Ideal versus practical standards. 3. Anatomy of a standard. 4. Management by exception. And finally, 5. The CMA exam trap.
Let's dive right into Section 1, the ultimate costing benchmark.
This right here establishes our core foundation of accountability in a manufacturing environment. And honestly, it's one of the most critical analogies you need to lock into your memory today. A budget is for the whole company, but a standard is a budget for a single unit. Think of a budget as the big picture, It tells you how much the entire factory should spend on electricity, labor, and materials for the whole year. But a standard is microscopic. It tells you exactly how much one specific single widget should cost. Literally, exactly how much wood, how many minutes of labor, and how much overhead should go into that one item. It's the ultimate benchmark because it lets you scale your expectations perfectly, whether you produce 10 units or 10,000.
Moving on to Section 2, ideal versus practical standards. Before we even think about calculating the math behind our standard costs, we have a massive management decision to make about the toughness of our benchmarks. First, we have ideal, or theoretical standards. Now, these assume absolute pure perfection. No machines ever break down, no employee ever takes a water break, and not a single ounce of raw material is ever wasted. And sure, while this might look amazing on a spreadsheet, in the real world, it's highly demotivating because it is literally impossible to achieve. Your factory workers will just give up. Then we have practical, or currently attainable standards. This is your sweet spot, both in real life and especially for the CMA exam. Practical standards allow for normal, expected spoilage and routine machine downtime. It's challenging, yes, but crucially, it's reachable. This is what the vast majority of successful companies use because it actually motivates the team.
All right, Section 3, Anatomy of a Standard.
Imagine we're stepping up to the whiteboard right now because we need to build out the specific components of what we call a standard cost card. To build a standard cost, you need two fundamental pieces for every single item, a quantity and a price or rate. So for direct materials, you need to know exactly how many pounds of material we need, that's our standard quantity, multiplied by the market price we expect to pay per pound, that's our standard price. For direct labor, it's the exact same logic. How many hours should it take to build the unit, that's our quantity or efficiency, multiplied by the hourly wage, which is our standard rate. And for overhead, we use the predetermined overhead rate, or POHR, just like we learned in normal costing. But hey, listen up. Here is a massive secret for the exam. You apply it based on the standard hours allowed for the actual work done, absolutely not the actual hours worked.
Which brings us to Section 4, management by exception.
At this point, you might be asking yourself, why go through all this trouble to create these tiny unit benchmarks? Well, let's see how this creates a continuous life cycle for a manager. Imagine you're overseeing a massive factory with hundreds of machines and thousands of employees. You obviously can't stand over every single worker's shoulder to watch what they're doing. Instead, you follow this flow. Step 1, you set your practical standard. Step 2, you measure the actual results at the end of the day or week. Step 3, you analyze the variance between the standard and the actual. And Step 4, you take action. We call this process management by exception. It's an absolute game changer for saving time because it allows managers to completely ignore everything that's going right and focus 100% of their energy on investigating and fixing the specific exceptions, the things that went wrong. And the magic tool that makes all of this possible is the variance report. This report automatically flags those exceptions for you. If you spent more money or used more materials than your standard allowed, that gets flagged as an unfavorable variance. Red alert, you need to look into this right away. Conversely, if you spent less than the standard, it's flagged as a favorable variance. By defining these strict boundaries, the variance report instantly highlights inefficiency, pointing our management accountant detective exactly where they need to look first.
And finally, Section 5, the CMA exam trap.
As your instructor, I want to make sure you are totally bulletproof on exam day, because examiners absolutely love to test your conceptual clarity here. Let's compare the entire landscape of costing methods. In actual costing, we use actual real-world numbers for everything: materials, labor, and overhead. In normal costing, we use actuals for our direct costs, but we use a budgeted or applied estimate for our overhead. But look at standard costing. We use standard benchmarks for everything: standard materials, standard labor, and standard overhead. There are literally zero actual costs flowing into the inventory accounts under a purely standard costing system. The whole shebang is recorded at the benchmark.
And here it is, the ultimate pro tip in the exact trap that trips up so many students when they're under pressure. Do not confuse standard costing with budgeting. They are related, for sure, but they are not the same thing. Just remember this golden rule. A budget covers a period of time, like a month, a quarter, or a year. A standard is strictly for one single unit of product. So if you see an exam question asking about expected costs for the entire month of October, you're dealing with a budget. But if it asks about the expected cost of one single wooden chair, you are dealing with a standard.
Listen, grasping standard costing is your absolute foundation for variance analysis, which features heavily in the next section of your CMA syllabus. If you deeply understand that a standard is simply what it should cost, all those complex variance formulas you have to memorize later are going to become so much easier to digest. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to prompt your next study action. Do you feel comfortable with how a standard cost card is built, or would you like to grab a pencil right now and walk through a quick practice calculation for direct labor? Take a moment, review this explainer, practice building out those standard cost cards, and I cannot wait to see you in our next session where we'll officially start breaking down those variances. Keep up the great work.